Furious Driving, proud to be supported by Diamond Bright, protecting, cleaning and caring for the Furious fleet and for yours with 10% off using code FD10. Follow the links in the description below. Oh no, that is as bad as I'd hoped it wasn't. I don't think we can save this one. Hello and welcome to Furious Driving, and well, summer is well and truly over, isn't it? Broken out the woolly hat for this one. And the weather is suitably bleak and dismal for what is basically an unpleasant decision day. D-Day, if you like. D for decision, D for doom, potentially destruction. It is, as our Scottish friends would call it, dreek today. Because ever since I put out the video last week about saying how bad the rust I discovered on this car was, every video, every comment on Facebook, Twitter, Threads, whatever, it's been, yeah, 3 questions in. What's happening with the W123? Haven't made a decision yet. And the fact is, I haven't. I've been putting it off. I don't want to make a decision because this thing is fantastic. I love a W123, and this thing is just such a cool one, and such a cool colour, such a cool spec. And I've put so many hundreds of hours into this thing, mechanically as well as bodywork wise, that I don't want to make the decision to scrap it. But having spoken to Whiteland Restorations and a couple of other sort of bodywork type people, the consensus is that, well, yes, it could be made safe. It's a big if. It obviously depends how far the rust goes, depends how good the welding is to replace it. Of course, things like crash structures would not be the same. So if the car was in an accident, having been fully restored, then it might not hold up as well as it did previously. And of course, having to do that much cutting out, the doorways are going to have to be braced and welded, and the whole thing, it's going to be a massive, massive job. It's not, nothing is insurmountable, as we sort of said with the Crown Victoria. Nothing is impossible when it comes to fixing old cars. People have restored worse than this. The question is, should you? And do we want to? Obviously, you don't want to see hours and hours of welding, so it would be hundreds of hours of off-camera welding and then present you, ta-da! So that's hundreds of hours of unpaid work I'm doing as far as YouTube is concerned, but it will save the car. Second question is, why did I not check the passenger side before I got into doing so much on the driver's side? And the thing is, I thought I had. These cars are coated in a really thick, hard, rubbery, plasticized underseal, rust-proofing, sound deadening stuff on both sides of the metal. So you can tap it and you can literally have like a shell of a car made out of this underseal, and it will feel as tough as a Honda, but there's no metal underneath it. It's only when you start get cracks and flexing in it, then you start to see the bubbling, that you realise that there's no metal behind what looks and feels like a solid thing. So yeah, I thought it was good until I found out it wasn't. Obviously, had I known it was that bad at the outset, I wouldn't have put all those hundreds of hours into the car earlier on. So yeah. Well, the third question, of course, is why are the number plates taped over, and that's because the car was a barn find. It had been in a barn on private property for about 15 to 20 years. It had been sort of gated off on private land for most of that time. So no one on the farm knew whose it was, and so I claimed it by doing the DVLA send off and claim the V5 and claim the car thing. And I didn't want to put the number plate out there and have people sort of say, oh, it's my car, it was involved in a robbery in 1987, or it was stolen and it's my car and I want it back. Or, you know, all this kind of opening myself up to a can of worms, and then how am I going to prove one way or the other? The car's been in a barn for 20 years. So yeah, just keep the identity off the camera. That's the reason why it's got tape on the plates. So, for potentially the last time I ever get to drive it, I'm going to turn this thing around, back it back in here, and then get a grinder out and see how bad the floor actually is. Because prodding with a screwdriver, it was perilously close to the underside mounting points for the rear suspension. As in like, ooh, yeah, that's not good. So let's fire this thing up for potentially the last time. And this is what's most annoying. I can hear the clock ticking, keeping good time. It's going to pump a bit. I'll just put another litre or two of petrol in. I don't want to put too much in case it's never used. Oh, come on, car. I've now got a working accelerator. Come on, baby. I'm sure I can hear the fuel pump again. I've been cranking and cranking, put a jump start pack on it, keep it cranking. I've just poured a little bit of petrol down the inlet just to see if that makes any odds, and it's fuel delivery again. The pump must have gone kaput already. bloody thing. Oh, come on, Carl. Nearly went then. No, I might have to tow this thing out on the Punto. I was hoping if I splashed a bit of fuel in there, it'd kick in and it would start drawing fuel through, but it didn't do it. I'll try one more time. Starts easier every time. It is leaking back there, which does suggest to me the fuel pump is kicking in and starting to try and draw it, but it's just not making it work. Oh, I think we've finally drawn fuel through. That was a mission and a half. No, we haven't. I just poured more fuel into it than last time, which is super duper annoying. It does mean, of course, that I'm just gonna have to tow it back and then not do it undercover. Plan was to drive it out, reverse it out, turn it around, drive back in so I can actually do this undercover rather than out there in the rain, which is what I'm gonna have to do now. Well, in a moment of luck but bad planning, I dumped a load of fuel into the inlet, had the handbrake off already and was ready to go with the gear shift. So the second it was running, banged it into reverse, and the car just flew backwards. And yeah, it's now out of the carport, so I can actually get on and jack the thing up and to move the cranbrake out of the way, obviously. I'm not able to turn it around like I'd hoped I was going to, but I can at least get, well, alongside it and start grinding, have a look at how bad it really is. I'm suspecting pretty awful. Now the thing is, my heart is saying I want to save this car, but my head is really going, no. It doesn't matter how nice the interior looks. I realise it looks like a right state at the moment with no door cards, all the interior junk everywhere. But it is this lovely wood. We've got all the lovely interior, all the buttons work on it. It's just such a nice car. The instruments work perfectly. On the plus side though, of course, that does mean this is all a good stock of parts to sell. The only thing that doesn't work is the radio, annoyingly. Yeah, the flows work. Yeah, the radio's never worked. I don't know why. It's a shame because it looks like a nice radio. God, even the heated rear window light works. Oh, it's a rotator. It's not a slider, it's a rotator. Who knew? Oh, this car is too good to break. I'd forgotten the thing that doesn't work. The electric sunroof button only works on open. It doesn't work on close. At least I'll be pushing the car back under the cover again shortly. Now the problem I'm facing here is finding a sensible, safe place to actually jack and support this car, because the front's not too bad, but the back end, all the places I would put an axle stand or a jack don't seem to be there. So I've got the jack underneath the actual jack point, which is what I thought to be a safe, solid point on the car. It probably is actually. I've now got the axle stand ready to take the weight of the car underneath the rear suspension mount. Oh, bloody hell. That shouldn't do that. That just went through the floor. Okay, right, we will not jack that just there then. That snapping noise might have just made my decision for me. Okay, so while there is no way I'm going underneath this car when it's on any kind of jack or stand, now I know really what kind of state it's in, because any kind of jack or stand could just go through the floor at any moment. I do need to get it a bit higher up, but I can't get a jack and a stand both under the back of the car. There's just nowhere to put one. But yes, I'll just have to lift it up on the jack, shove a stand under something vaguely solid once I'm ready to go, and hope for the best. Get the grinder out and then see what we find. But just trying to jack this thing right now, it doesn't look good. So the car is now in the air, supported underneath the shock absorber and the rear trailing arm. So now we can get inside here and have a proper look at the state of the floor. And you can see all this rubber stuff that was hiding all the disaster underneath. So this goes back a really long way. I'm going to protect the wiring with a bit of wood underneath that so I can get the grinder close to there. Then we'll get a proper look. I'm not going underneath this thing because I don't trust anywhere it's jacked or supported now. Okay, I've just pulled the carpet back and it is worse than I thought, because this is the side panel. This is the inside that you put your foot against where the carpet glues onto on this side. There's like nothing here. There's nothing to weld to. God, the whole thing is just gone completely. Oh my word. This is way worse than I imagined it was going to be. Let's pull those wires free so I can get a grinder onto that. And from the outside it looks bad, but then you see that. And of course the position I was just putting the axle stand onto a minute ago is the other side of that bolt, and that's just mostly under seal. Wow, this is so terrible. So you can buy a complete floor panel that goes the length of that and cuts all a long way into the car, but it depends if you've got anything to weld it onto or not, is the question. So let's have a probe. I just thought, oh, I found something solid. Then I realised it's the bit of wood I put in the floor well to protect the wiring. There's nothing solid at all. Most solid thing here is the under seal. Oh my word. That's gone through there as well. I was about to say, oh, I found some solid metal, but then that's going through there. I'm pretty sure that shouldn't be that shape. Nope, it shouldn't be that shape. That's just gone through there, so that's another hole. Well, an extension of the existing holes, I guess. So that's a strong front point, but it's welding onto a floor pan that isn't solid anymore. So this whole area needs to be replaced. This area in its entirety, front to back, needs to be replaced. All the stuff that the rear subframe bolts onto needs to be replaced. And of course that whole area down there at the back, the first bit we found, that all needs doing as well. I think my optimism is outweighing my common sense at this point, because this thing is just very bad worded. It's not looking good at all. Oh man, that's properly gone just there as well. Oh, that's more wiring. I'm hitting wires just there, so I'm grinding more on that part. Everywhere this stuff is coming off, and you see how thick it is, that's why the car feels solid, because that stuff it's like, well, it's thick rubber. It feels like metal. When you touch it, it doesn't feel like you're touching rubber, it feels like you're touching metal. But everything behind it is just, it's rusty all the way. Oh God, there's no end to it. Okay, so that's bad. That's bad. I've had a bit of grind either side of this bit here, which is basically, if I'm honest, the good bit. And there is solid metal either side of that, but the middle bit is bad. That is gone. That's gone catastrophically. But the bit I'm really worried about is this whole area here, which is where the rear axle bolts onto. So this is quite significantly bad. So let's have a quick look at that, because that's the big deciding point, really. Oh, can I find any metal to grind to? Oh, it's just disappearing in front of me. Oh. It starts getting shiny just about here, but that's only a thumb's width from the bolt that holds it together. Oh, I don't think I can do this. I don't think this will be safe. Just looking at the way that that's just falling apart under the grinder and the extent of it, I just can't really justify doing that. I mean, I can do it for myself in my own time, no videos, but there's just so much more. I don't think that's going to be a safe repair. I know you can buy the panels, but that's just so much. It just goes so extensively everywhere. And although there is metal, good metal, that you can grind back to, I'm very dubious about it being a safe car once it's done. And honestly, it breaks my heart to say that, having put so much time and effort into this thing. And I didn't care about it looking good. I just wanted the thing to drive. I wanted to be driving around in my petrol blue metallic 230 W123. Yeah, the rat Merc, the rat look Mercedes, I'm happy with that. I think it's going to be really fun, really cool, you know. But if the thing is going to be dangerous in a crash, so I'm just picking a huge rust blister off the side, I'm never going to be happy with it. And even if I decide I want out and I'll sell the car to someone else, it's always going to be on the back of my mind, what if that person gets into a crash and they're hurting it because of a repair I've done? And I spoke to Whiteland Restorations about it, and they said yes, it can be done, but you're looking at thousands and thousands of pounds in terms of just fabrication work alone. I don't think we can put this back together. Well, if nothing else, I'm going to keep the grille because I want a souvenir of this car. And one thing that has been consistently amazing is that even barely need to squirt of BDX, the nuts and bolts have just been falling undone is the wrong phrase, but 40-odd-year-old nuts and bolts just unwinding and no problem at all. Whoop. Well, there you go. That is a souvenir for the garage or the barn wall. That's a lovely thing to have, but a very sad way to earn it. At least I didn't go and buy a new three-pointed star for it, which I nearly did a couple of times. That's 50 or 60 quid I would have been wasting. The other thing that can be salvaged from this situation is that battery. It's a brand new UASA battery just there. And I mentioned in my members and Patreons chat the other day, the 200VI, the battery is completely kaput in that one. And that's the same type, so that can go and donate and live on in that other car. Well, the grille can go up with the Rover grille or something. That was off the spare bonnet I bought for Quentin the convertible many moons ago. Not doing this video until now has basically been a way of delaying the inevitable. I think I kind of knew all along that it wasn't really it was a lost cause basically, and I was just hoping for the best. But yeah, I don't think that's doable. I think we're basically starting a new series, which I didn't want to be starting, which is parting out the W123. I mean, I looked at, after people mentioned it, Seaside Garage. And I do subscribe to Seaside Garage, but YouTube is doing this thing where it's not showing you the videos of people you're subscribed to at the moment, which is super helpful. Thanks, YouTube, for really hurting the numbers. But yeah, I didn't realise he'd bought an estate one of these, and he'd found basically the same kind of rust. And I thought on this car, the driver's side was the worst side. In fact, it wasn't. It was nowhere near as bad. But I've got a lot of parts to sell for this thing, so I'm basically going to start breaking up. The next couple of videos on this car will unfortunately be the ones I really desperately didn't want to make. So taking the thing to pieces and starting cataloguing it, listing it on eBay. So if you want any particular pieces, then do drop me a line. I know someone's already bag-seed the boot lid, but I've got a new I had a new bonnet for it, like a nice second-hand one, really good condition. I've got a new rear wing for it, brand new pressing. Rust-free, shiny metal in the garage. But the tail lights, the headlights, all the side trim, the interior, got weirdly 3 hubcaps. The engine can come out, the fuel injection system and the ancillaries, the radiator, well, the radiator doesn't look too good. The ABS, God, this car's got ABS on it, for crying out loud. If any sort of restoration YouTube channels want to get involved and do a collaboration and start and do the welding safely and professionally, then I will be over the moon. And people keep talking about Yorkshire restorations in the comments, and I know it's a good idea because you've seen them do Alex from Auto Alex's cars, but they won't have been doing that for free. They'll have been charging a pretty penny, I'm sure, for that. Yeah, I don't think there's any way around this. I think, unfortunately, we are basically going to have to be doing some videos of taking this thing apart. So slightly damaged bonnet might be better than someone else's bonnet. The doors sell as empty shells, strip off the door handles, take out the ignition barrel, sell that as a complete door lock set. The window regulators, the glass, wing mirrors, the side trim, the seats, the carpet. I don't know if that's any good or not. It keeps locking itself. Headlining perhaps, I don't know if you can get the headlining out. A functioning electric sunroof, that might be worth something in its own. These little trim bits here, this side trim, the badges, it all stacks up, and it's actually worth quite a lot of money. And a differential perhaps, I don't know if the differential's worth anything on its own. It stacks up, it's a couple of grand, and of course the shell itself once everything's taken out. Ah, man alive, I can't believe how much time and effort and money as well, thinking about it, but yeah, that's not the big part. But the effort and the time and the attention and love I've put into this car, and to have to end it this way at this point it's crushing, really. It's really sad. But basically, either I pay an insane amount of money to someone to do it professionally, I spend the next year and a half underneath it all the time, getting more and more fed up and hating it more and more by the day. And even then, once I've done all that, I'm not sure I'm going to trust myself to have done it properly. The thing is, with this car compared to the Crown Victoria, because the Crown Vic is body on frame, so when the sills went on the body, that wasn't really the end of the world, because the frame of the car still has the strength of it in there. So it's sort of semi-cosmetic almost. This is the actual strength of the car. I'm amazed the doors open and close so well as they do. Hang on, let me show you. So that is a perfectly open and closing door. I'm amazed with that much structure missing in the floor. I'm amazed that still does that. If we were to go and do the welding on this car and continue with the project, the doors would have to come off. Let's have a look. How do these come off? I need to actually learn how to do that. Unbolt from here. They're going to have to grind this back, weld bracing in here across the door aperture, because the shell would move. Once you start cutting that floor area out, that's just going to fall apart, and the car's going to crumple in on itself. So as I say, I know I can go and get a repair panel for £180 basically from Europe, and that's the full length of the floor up into the sill. You can do these things, but should you do these things? And I'm going to take the horrible, horrible decision to say I don't think we will. I think unless I have a massive change of heart, or someone with a lot of welding experience steps up and says, I'd like to help you out, I think I'll be starting to take this car apart next week. So if anyone wants any components, then drop me a message, let me know what you need, and I'll earmark it for you. And I'll spend the weekend just on the internet trying to work out what the bits are worth, because obviously I don't want to be overcharging people, but at the same time I don't want to be, giving stuff away when it could be funding another project or another one of these things. Because I do love a W123, they are absolutely fantastic. And now I'm facing the prospect of being a one Mercedes family, which is falling on hard times here. Let's end this video on a high note and crank the V8 over. Still going to fix the alternator, but on a positive, I'm trying to think about it in the best way possible. If I do scrap the W123 and get decent money for all the parts and for the carcass of the shell, then it will probably make enough to do the manual conversion on this thing. Get a 5-speed in it, because that will be well worth having. That's going to need a 5-speed box, a bell housing, and probably a custom prop shaft. So a couple of £1,000 is going to be needed for that. And if the W123 can pay its way in that respect, then we'll be onto it. Well, that'll be one good thing, at least from this situation. And don't forget, when I first got the car in, I know a lot of people came to this channel first of all those years ago because of the W123. It was the first car, the first big project. It was the first big project on the channel, so for that reason also I'm doubly loath to let the car go. But when I bought it, I was with the intention of breaking it for parts, because I figured it was too far gone all that time ago. But never mind. At least this big project is still here and kicking, almost. The video I didn't want to make, potentially the last time you see this car as a whole car on camera. Oh, that lovely blue colour. What a shame. I am so disappointed. But safety comes first. No matter how determined you are to fix a car, if it's not going to be safe, you've got to walk away sometimes. Disappointment rules in this one. Sad times, very sad times. Do hit like, do hit subscribe, even if you don't like this particular video. Don't hit dislike if you dislike this outcome, because that hurts the algorithm. That's just not fair. Thank you. But yeah, see you next time, hopefully with a happier video.